You're making this sound intelligent.
Yeah, I'm trying my best.
I don't want to sound intelligent today.
That's the thing about real supercars and race cars. They don't give a crap about the driver or passenger.
That's for all the haters.
Take that, haters.
Yeah.
What's up, people? We are back with a King Zero build. It's complete insanity, especially for everybody that just came over from VinWiki today. Pretty excited about that, but it's going well. And we're with Peyton.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, and we totally just have this one mic. I know some of you are complaining, but this is what we got, and we're going to go with it. And it's going to be fun. Where is it? It's right here. Check it out. And the thing I'm most excited about this is I don't have to be super professional. We can just be insane and build the things we want, and it's going pretty well so far.
Heck yeah.
Except for like everything. Peyton, why does it suck?
Well, you see, this was not a Stratos, and then now it is.
And a Stratos wasn't even the thing we're building.
Right.
Yeah,
So there are so many design challenges and engineering challenges that we've had to overcome.
Yeah, you're making this sound intelligent.
Yeah, I'm trying my best.
I don't want to sound intelligent today.
Carhartt, we're trying.
Carhartt? What? Okay, so we should actually probably get at this. So
Yeah.
a bunch of you guys have seen this. Obviously, we're building it. We started with the basis of a Porsche Boxster because we needed the suspension. The McPherson suspension in the front is very important because you have this open area, and that's key because that's where the passenger and driver's legs go. We're not going to make this a center seating vehicle because there really wouldn't be any room for a passenger, and a vehicle is way more fun when you can take a passenger and scare them. And this thing will be, it's going to be insane.
Yeah.
So, two-seat, basically like how the original was in that regard. And this is the biggest challenge of the car right now that we're focusing. You guys can obviously see back here. Come on to the back, and we're going to look at this real quick. In fact, Peyton, would you be so kind as to grab the exhaust?
I can.
Okay, so if you come all the way to the back and take a peek right here, the V12's in, it's mounted well to the Porsche Boxster transaxle with the adapter plate. Obviously, so you can see the transaxle here. This is cut off very short because the original design, which we're going to do something very close to, terminates just shy of the rear tires. Now, the other aspect is the rear in the Porsche has McPherson suspension as well, which works out just fine because the bodywork, the coach building will clear it. However, when you start cutting up an old unibody car, you lose a lot of structure. So for instance here, we've tied in the top of the strut towers to this node here in this regard, as well as tied it in here, which actually is very important. But if you look at it, while this ties in everything perfectly on this vertical and transverse plane, it still can flex slightly front to rear. So when we create the rest of the, shall we say, the heftier structure coming up soon, you guys are going to see that in the next couple of weeks, this is going to have to be tied in a longitudinal way. And what I mean to say is that right now we're basically rocking through this in a week, Peyton, aren't we?
Yeah.
The rest of the chassis. That's going to be all the cockpit design this week, all the suspension basically finalized, and we're going to get the clutch in here because we want to drop this chassis on the ground and then basically get all of our coordinates for the blueprints.
Yeah.
And we're going to start making the wireframe buck so we know exactly where all of the coach building bodywork will go. And at that stage, then we have to make the rest of the structure of the chassis underneath it.
Right. Yeah, we can't do that first because we don't know exactly where the body's going to be.
Right. So you look, we've got to do that. You look like the jetpack guy. What are you doing?
These are our super awesome Megaphone exhaust tips that Casey sourced. That are going to be, we're going to do quad tips. So the existing manifolds for the exhaust go 3 into 2 on both sides. And so we are just going to go with those 4 pipes running to the back.
Yeah, and
with
each
these
one
staggered really, really cool and sexy. And
we'll stagger them. So
Yeah.
each exhaust pipe coming off of the stock manifolds are 1.5 inches diameter, basically. Now, I know you all want to see some sweet, insane equal-length headers on this and quad turbos. That can come in the future, but for right now, we need this to work, and we got a lot of work to do with coach building. Actually, I'm thinking below that, man.
Anything below that?
Yeah, let me clip this thing on here, and let's look at it. Now, the original design, which I'm not trying to do exact, had 2 megaphones that were a bit bigger than this, just like that, which worked fine and looked fine for the original, but we're going to do it a lot better. There is enough room that we can sneak them through down here, so our megaphones could do them on this, but we're going to put them in at this angle. I think that's going to look spectacular, and that's going to go straight. So each 3 cylinders on this V12 will have its own exhaust system. I mean, some really nice stainless. So these are going to end up being clamped This is the original piping here, down pipes that came off of that. So we're going to have to weld them and make couplers. I don't know if we're going to make these. Should we make these slip fit and clamp on? We
I
might.
think that's the easiest way to do it. Yeah, I think they're made for that. It's going to be nice, simple. I mean, we could weld them on.
The easiest thing to do is weld them on, but my concern is if we do that, what would we have to do to take the exhaust system off? We'd have to drop this whole bottom part and the sway bar, wouldn't we?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that would make it a much more involved process for sure.
But we could clamp them on. But if we clamp them on, we still need to mount them, and it's probably going to need some sort of tab welded on up here to attach to this.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just weld them on and make it so you have to drop it to take the exhaust system off.
I mean, I'm fine with that. It's not too crazy to drop that bottom tray.
Yeah?
So it's definitely something we can do. So
Cool.
Doesn't
I think this
ruin
looks gorgeous.
I think it's fantastic.
Okay, hold that there again.
I
Let's
had
see
my
it.
doubts when you first said megaphones because all I could picture was your Ducati.
Oh, right.
I was like, that's a little big for this thing, but now that I see them, I dig them a lot.
Right. And for all you guys watching, I bought these. These are cafe racer parts. So this is something you'd stick on like your 70s Honda if you're making a cafe racer, like one of them. But the thing that's nice about bikes are they have some really cool designs. They're relatively inexpensive. And each one, I mean, this costs a little bit to get all of them, but these are stainless steel and each one was like $70.
Yeah, and they're super nice. I mean, these are super cool looking.
Subtle glass pack. It's going to be loud. It's going to sound cool, but it's going to get rid of the edge a little bit. So that's coming up real soon. Obviously, these have to be cut and welded. But right now, let's go focus on the front, what we're finishing up here today, Peyton. This is where all the design challenges are, you guys. I think you can see all of this has been cut up with regard to the unibody of the Porsche Boxster. And if you look down in one of these right now, you can see this is all sheet metal. I mean, it's all spot welded together and such. It basically creates a monocoque structure and not frame rails that you can easily just cut and lengthen and such like that. So right now, where we've cut it off and terminated it, Peyton is using, on that, you're using 14 gauge steel?
Yeah, 14 gauge sheet steel. It's the thickest stuff that we've got in here right now.
Right.
And it's easiest to work with in terms of really thick.
Right. So the stage right now we're at, we want to kind of finish this area. So he's capping this off, and then we're going to create a stronger box structure here. However, everything going on up here is nutty. And how we're doing that is if you want to come to the front and look here, when you're building something that shouldn't exist and you're blending a lot of things together, just forget about putting this in a computer program. Just forget it. You got to do it in your head. Otherwise, you're going to be looking at this one thing for the next 3 years and decide it was a bad idea and you should have started from the beginning anyway. So the better way to do that is you got to start with a point, a place to start, and you've got to prioritize it. So for us, obviously the driver and passenger, in fact, Peyton, do you want to sit in this thing while I'm up here?
Yeah,
okay.
let me get the seats.
You'll get the seats, okay. So the first thing is the steering rack has a couple issues. One, I thought initially we might be able to put a different steering rack in back here behind, and you'd have a little more clearance with your legs, and then you could just flip the hubs around on the McPherson, which you can kind of do, but you can't. There's some angles that don't work, like with the lower ball joint. But we did find that if the steering rack stays approximately where it was stock, it'll work because you'll clear it by an inch or two with your feet. And if you put your heels right on that level, that's basically where the floor is going to be. So where Peyton is effectively exactly the seating position, but you'd have to move a couple inches to your left because you're a husky gentleman and leaving very little room for a passenger. Oh, it's going to be a very friendly seating position for you and the occupant.
You need to be real close with your occupant.
Or just really confident in your own personal space. That's the thing about real supercars and race cars. They don't give a crap about the driver or passenger. Just deal with it, people. Go fast and shut up. Yes?
Well, ideally, your passenger also isn't my size.
What's that supposed to mean, Peyton?
Take it how you will.
Okay, anyway, moving on. So Peyton's got his feet approximately where that goes. So the steering rack is in a right spot. However, if you just move your legs, I'm not going to say spread them. This is getting really weird. Move your legs, darn it! Don't be man-spreading on my video. The steering rack was at a different angle, and where the drive part was at a much higher angle. The problem with that is it's so tight of quarters that the angle has to be right to point exactly where the steering wheel needs to go. And then if you want the steering wheel rack to move up and down like the original, perhaps, you have to have U-joints that allow an incredible amount of movement, and then for that not to get in the way of the structure. The other problem is thinking down the line is you've got this McPherson and basically nothing supporting it. Right now it's held together with these straps So there's not much holding it. So that's what you guys are going to see in the next video, all the structure and triangulation that has to go back to there as well as up here. And in some, well, we'll get to it, but in some ways, the triangulation to make these McPherson struts work is much like the cables that would support the wings on a 1930s air racer. And that's
I can see that.
You know what I'm saying? So like they had the wing going on out and it was strong, but it wasn't strong enough. So they had cables going from the top of the fuselage down to it, and then they triangulated down the landing gear and came up and made a big box section. So you're going to see where we're going with that. So we had to take the steering rack, and I got sneeze. We had to take the steering rack and keep the tube in exactly the same location, but it had to rotate and rotate downward to get this at a position that works. By keeping the steering rack itself in the right position, it doesn't change the nature of the geometry of the suspension. So you don't get into weird like bump steers and kind of weird sweeps through the left and right turning. Some of that's not real perceivable, but you don't want to go making a car that, frankly, you don't want to crash and is capable of high speeds that is going like this down the road.
Yeah.
And so we did a good job, but then we realized we did a bad job on it.
Yes, we had a really, really nice, pretty, everything good.
Everything perfect.
Mounted, good to go. And then we realized...
We put this at too far of an extreme angle down low because we were overcompensating for what we needed to do. Yeah. So right now we're working on getting that perfect. But where I'm going with it is the first point of starting to create the structure of the pedals and everything where it goes is, see this cross tube right here? This 2-inch by 1-inch steel tubing with these holes? These holes right here, this bolt is where the aluminum subframe bolts to the bottom of the steel structure of what was the Porsche Boxster. So by starting with that, I was able to weld it to those nodes that are very strong, and the subframe can still unbolt the way it was. That's the best place to start because it gave us a great flat area to weld to. It's tying this in and making the chassis stronger at its engineering nodes that work. There's also, and you probably can't see this, but Tyler, if you want to get down low, let's see if we can. Down here, you're gonna have to get down really low down here and look underneath. So right here, the suspension, you can see a steel plate, and this, let's see, where's the node? This is the big node that holds everything together, which is also the pivot point for the suspension. But it also comes out here to another node, right here. And if you come up to the top, you can see, we then tied that together with a 3/4 inch, actually maybe that's inch. Anyway, steel tubing that's a little thinner walled from here to here, which allowed us to tie in for the new part of the floor, lower part of the floor. And then we use 14 gauge here sheet and just basically kind of tack weld it in certain spots to create an incredibly rigid structure up here. And by doing that, that gives us flat areas to tie everything into. From there, we had to think, this is going to be the floor area, and effectively where Peyton just showed his heels. Do you want to hop back in?
I can do that.
And demonstrate? So it's all about pedals, you guys. And the best way to make a car safe and fast is kind of the same way to make a motorcycle safe and fast, and that's if you can control it well. So I've got some really good floor-mounted tilting pedals here, which will mount to the chassis here. And if you notice, we tied this in, so that ties in the structures from the node of the chassis, but it's also going to be the floor. And these two rails here is where I can drill through and mount the pedals to where they need to be, and then you have a little bit of adjustment. Now, in terms of the gas pedal or throttle pedal, it's going to mount here. Now, some of you may notice, if you look carefully, I only tied in an L-bend piece of steel here with one bolt. The reason being is there's going to be steel welded to this floor, and the gas pedal has such a lower duty. Having one bolt go through this piece of steel and the other through the sheet metal will be just fine. Now, with regard to the gas pedal, I want to show you guys this because it's pretty cool. The BMW motor, we think we can use the stock wiring harness. You still think so?
I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to.
Now, that's great because it saves time and money if we can, but there's some of the things I don't like about the BMW stop wiring harnesses. It's fly-by-wire throttles from the early 90s, which sounds terrible and stupid.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get why they did it in the 7 Series. It smooths out your throttle inputs.
I guess.
And on a big
my throttle
car
inputs
like
are just
that.
fine.
But for a sports car, it may not be ideal. We'll have to see.
Yeah, well, hopefully it works and doesn't kill anybody, BMW. But so this is the throttle actuator from the BMW, which is just rotary. Let's see here. It turns a little less than 90 degrees. It's probably, oh, I don't know, not 90 degrees. But the thing that's cool about it is this will get mounted here and can be pushed here. And then this pedal is a Yamaha. It's from kind of the high-end sand rail and dune buggy world. It's really nice. It's billet aluminum. It's got this little edge, so if you're cornering, your foot can go on it. But there's these 3 mounts that we can have a little tie rod. So when you push the gas pedal like this, there'll be a tie rod, and then we can mount this here. And then you've got 3 different positions to put it. I can also, I'm probably going to take this arm and make it straight so that we can mount the tie rod at any place to get the right amount of throttle travel, and that'll mount right here. And honestly, Peyton, you got to be happy about how these pedals are coming out.
I'm pretty thrilled with the whole system,
the
stuff we've got going down there. Yeah.
This all fits beautifully. I think let's mount these pedals today.
Yeah.
As we're going. Then we'll also make the mounts for this here, and then we just have to get our tie rod.
Yeah.
That'll be really easy. We can probably just use all thread and 2 like female joints there. So there's that. The shifter is kind of actually, this is kind of depressing right now. This thing is enormous.
Yeah, it's really big.
Do you think we're gonna have to, do you think we should try to shove this? Put your legs down if you don't mind. Scoot it slightly over. You're a little beefier than I am. Okay, Cartman.
Listen.
That's gonna have to go kind of underneath.
Yeah, I think down here, and then we'll obviously have to work magic with where the shift.
The other idea I had, but I don't think there's room, is making it left-hand shift to get it out of the way. I don't mind shifting with my left hand, but there's not much room to do it well.
Well, actually, if you switch it around, that's the actual way.
Well, it's just a shift knob that's on backwards, buddy.
Ah, got
I just shoved it on there.
You silly goose.
Yeah.
It's not so bad with the other seat that we've kind of been using for mock-up. You don't have this.
Yeah, if you don't have this and you can move your arm.
If you don't have this, it's actually not bad on that side.
Yeah.
And by not bad, it's honestly really good.
But then we still got to put the gauges and stuff. So we'll find out about this. But this is going to be a kind of a kicker because this is the Porsche shifter with a short shift kit type thing in it. And honestly, the Porsche shifter is like mass-produced Volkswagen garbage. It's just not. I'm sorry, that sounds mean, but I'm really not because it's true.
It is.
Okay, so here's where you guys can see where this is going. You can see why we use the square tubing. Obviously, some of this is not going to be the lightest structure in the world doing the square tubing, but for anybody that works on 80s and 90s Ferraris, they're all steel square tubing that's MIG welded together. It's exactly the same stuff, and there's reasons for that. But if you look at this, so now the big kicker, Peyton, was how much of this original structure here do we use?
Right.
And the McPherson tower, none of this is going to be used. We're literally going to cut this off, and we're going to measure and get the right caster angle and the right camber angle based upon what the ride height will be to be correct. And that's how we're going to locate our shock tower.
Yeah, we know the stock Porsche caster is about 5 degrees.
Yeah.
So from there, we can kind of make our own thing.
I know. So that'll be interesting. So you're capping off this area to create more structure here.
Correct.
I'm thinking that the next step, we've got to do our vertical wall here.
Yep.
So we're going to stiffen up this front area well, kind of finish that off. And from there, you're finishing this box section here.
Right.
And then once we get to that point and we're happy with the steering rack and where all that is, then we can think about cutting off the McPherson top, cleaning this up with the way it's going to go the rest of the way. And then we'll probably cap this off next. At that point, when we go to cut this McPherson top off, do we want to put it on the ground and block it so the chassis is at a normal ride height?
That is definitely something we can do.
And we can do it then?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's it, guys. That's where we're at. We're going to do this video once a week, of course. And next week, this should be on the ground with structure and sitting in it. We'll see that. I think you guys are going to be most excited. So today, the reason why, frankly, we're not getting to show you guys as much work, and I hope you understand this. There's a lot of projects going on here. And today with the VinVicky episode, we really wanted you to see this. But right now, you and I, we're rocking out and moving as fast as we can. And since we're kind of a one-man show with that, it's hard to show you the video. But I'm excited for you guys. In the next one, we'll show you more of welding, and then we're going to start getting into actually building the wire buck of the body and how we do that. So that we're definitely going to be showing you because it's going to be something you don't want to miss. Peyton, what else do we should show them today?
Oh gosh, I think we've covered everything. I mean, we talked about what we've done in the last couple of days, what we're going to do the next couple of days.
Yeah. Should we show them the mistake tube?
No.
So yes. Okay. So have a look at this, you guys. So when Peyton was working on things, this is kind of where communication comes into play, but sometimes an accident can be okay. So here's basic frame rails going on of the Porsche and how it comes in. And I wanted to put a tube down here low, which tied in the steel of the floor, transverse left to right, of course, that can be gusseted. So that's exactly what I had in mind when we did it. However, when Peyton was thinking about it, he put it here. And then I came in and then I looked at you like, what? I was like, What the hell is that?
And my stupid answer was, it's a tube.
I'm like, that is not in a place that is helpful.
No, yeah, it was just a lapse in judgment and thought on my part.
It's all right. But
No.
the reason, so here's the thing, guys. So this lower one works because you tie in the floor. You know, you get all the strength of the sheet metal from the floor. You're tying it into a node in extreme low position, because there would be another tube at the extreme high position, basically under where your knee would be. And that could be triangulated, and then you can bring the steering rack under it. This was in the middle. And not only was it in the middle of places it doesn't make sense in terms of like triangulating something so it doesn't like parallelogram like this, it was in the middle of sheet metal, which is the most flexible left to right. Now, I was looking at it, and we can't use it in terms of the engineering and the structure, but we left it in there. Why did we leave it in there?
Because there's precious little in this kind of way of structure up
Yes,
front
precious little.
to protect your posterior region.
It's to protect your junk,
Yeah,
basically.
pretty much.
It adds weight. However, it does do a lot of good for strength. If your rear end is going to be sitting in this area, if something did happen, let's say you lost control and you went off the road. Even if you didn't hit anything, what if somebody's cutting lumber or something and you
Yeah.
go over logs? Well, you'd have a pretty large opening right here that's not protected from the bottom other than sheet metal for the aerodynamics.
Which would shear like butter.
Right. So we decided to leave that in, honestly, for safety, so that in the event of some sort of accident, if there were, things going on, you wouldn't have something going on. Like, exactly. So effectively, that tube is the zero equivalent of the halo on an F1 car.
Yeah, no. People have been talking a lot of trash about how unsafe this car is, and that's for all the haters.
Take that, haters.
Yeah, it's safe.
It's totally safe. I don't care. What I'm gonna make a supercar that's not fast and dangerous?
Yeah, exactly.
We're making it good. We just won't crash it.
Yeah, I drive a Spitfire.
I have a dune buggy.
Yeah. We both have cars
Yeah.
that if you get into an accident, you're probably dead.
Oh yeah.
So your safety system is not getting into an accident.
That's true.
Just don't do that.
You would
Like,
be
it's-
FUCT. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
big
it's good. It's better than a motorcycle. It doesn't fall down when you
Oh,
stop.
yeah.
I just thought of something. The dune buggy is basically a 200 horsepower jungle gym.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, we need anything else intelligent or funny to tell them.
No, I think we covered all of our intelligence.
What is our
and funny
biggest
answers.
concern with this other than just time and having to deal with our insanity on a daily basis?
As far as concerns, I don't have any. I know there's going to be a lot of challenges.
You're being too PC.
But I don't really. I think we can manage it. This is going to be, obviously it's going to take some doing.
I don't
but
think it's going to be that.
I think we got it.
Like, I'm excited about this because we're rocking out. The entirety of all this structure for the steering rack, you guys, and the pedals and this, that was one day.
Yeah.
We banged that through that in a day.
Yeah.
So I know some people think like the timeline on this is nutty, but it's not. So this week, you and I are just crushing it in terms of getting the structure done.
Yeah. Yeah, and the day before that is the day that I did all the back structure. So.
Oh, exactly. And as a note, we gotta find the steering shaft. I don't know where it is right now. The double D shaft I bought.
Okay. We'll look around for it.
It's the only double D thing you can buy. I shouldn't have said that. So, but I'm not going to edit it. But I bought this, you guys, because it's an extreme change of an angle. And in putting this in, this is what will allow you on the steering shaft to potentially be able to make the steering wheel move to get in and out of the car.
Yeah.
I am giving some consideration to making the steering wheel be fixed and just a quick release removable type thing. Because actually I think in a way that'll be easier to get in and be safer. And then I can have one lever that pulls like this and goes back down. Kind of similar to how the latches work, the hidden latches on doors of old houses, and use that to operate the windshield. I think that might be a little more intelligent. Maybe not as like kitschy cool, but better for building a supercar.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get out of here and get this thing moving.
Yeah, let's get rocking.
See you guys next time.